My name is John Hazlip. I'm with the Surveying and Mapping Office here at Florida Department of Transportation. And as Randy said, this is the third in a series of Civil 3D design surveys. Today's subject is deliverables. Also, I will be talking about Civil 3D styles and visualizations. So let's get started. If you have been following the series, where you may have left off is at a point where you have created the survey database. You have used the Land XML grouper, which is located in our FDOT state kit. Here's right here, and you've grouped your XML file and created a survey database out of it. You probably have created your surface for your survey and added in any alignments. In this particular file, if I look under the prospector, under the home page, the prospector will be found under the tool space. As a reminder, you can turn it on and off right at the home tab, and use the survey tab, the prospector tab, and you want the settings tab highlighted, which will put these settings tabs right over here on the right of your tool space. So if we go to the prospector and we look, we probably at this point have some surfaces. In this particular file, I have a bridge surface and an existing ground surface. Now those are cut off at the moment. I can turn them on by using a style, and styles what's very important in Civil 3D, and it's one of the main focuses I want to talk about today. In this particular file, the surface style is set to no display, therefore it's not showing. If we put in triangles and say OK, you'll see the bridge show triangles. If I do the same thing on the existing ground, change it from no display to triangles, say OK, you can see that both the bridge and the existing surface in this particular file are shown. If I select them, get them all selected, I'm going to go to the object viewer, and you can see this is something we have created previously. What you wanted to do was export out these surfaces by right-clicking, saying Export to Land XML. You can also do it with the existing ground, Export to Land XML. Also, if you have an alignment created, it too will show up in the prospector under alignments. You can go down to the particular alignment that's created, and it too can be exported to a Land XML. So what you'll end up in your file structure, you'll show probably the alignment XML, and in this case the bridge XML here, and then the existing ground XML. And then your survey development models, whatever you used, will still exist in your file structure. So let me go back to PowerPoint and then talk a little bit about Civil 3D styles and visualization. So styles are an part of Civil 3D, and they can even replace the need for layers. FDOT uses a number of styles throughout the design process, and Surveying and Mapping uses a few of these styles. We use them for visualization of point objects, services, alignments, and labels. And the styles are embedded in the template itself, and so therefore they're drawing specific. They can be moved from drawing to drawing, but the way FDOT has set these up, we've set up these templates for surveying and for all disciplines for that matter. And in our surveying templates, we have specific styles that have been set. They can be edited if need be, and usually that's through the tool space settings tab. If I go back to my file and go down to settings, you'll see the name of the file, and under that you'll see point. That is where the styles are located. So under point we have point styles, and we have label styles, the various label styles, and those styles can be put into the description key set, edited there, and also we have a figure style up under figures, and figure styles will be placed in the figure prefix database and referenced there. So all of our chains will show up the way we want them to show up. So let's talk about Civil 3D label styles for a moment. See, the point label styles that begin with the word survey will not change size with the drawing scale. So if you look under the point labels and the label styles, you'll see a few that start with survey. You have the survey display all, which at 0.2 text height, display all at 0.5 text height, and then there's various other settings within these. You've also got a display coordinates at a 0.2 text height, and you can display the ground elevation at a 0.2 text height. Within these label styles I just mentioned, you can go down and specifically choose description, elevation, and or name. And the way these styles will visualize your points are in the prospector and in the point groups. All other styles, label styles under point, will change size based on the drawing scale. So right here we have FDOT and we have no display. Both of these are full styles, and using them will let you label your point objects and have the drawing scale control the size of the text. So Civil 3D uses point objects, and like surface and alignments, point objects have built-in intelligence. So when point objects are inserted into a drawing from the survey database, they're visualized based on the associated point and label style. So the marker itself will look the way you want it to look, and the label will look the way you want it to look based on the styles that are chosen. We have preset styles in our templates, but they can be changed in the prospector. The point and label styles are associated with point objects based on the create points command. So anything that's not in the description set, any default point or anything that doesn't come in that is created specifically with some sort of feature or feature code, will be created based on the create points command. So note that description key point label style settings take precedent over all the point group display settings in the tool space or the prospector tab. Let me give you a quick example of what I'm talking about. If you look up in the prospector, in this case, there are a few point groups. Anything that is at the top of the point group has priority. Whatever style is set for that point, for that particular group, if you look into the properties of it, it'll tell you what kind of point style is set, in this case marker, and what the label style, in this case elevation at a 0.2 height. These will take precedence except for over anything that is in the description key set. In order for this particular style to take precedence over the description key set, an override would have to be set to override the descriptions. You could override the style or the point label style itself. In previous releases of the FDOT Civil 3D State Kit, all the points were set to visualize all labels. So if you pulled in by default points and figures, all your points would show the name, the elevation, and any description. In the 2014 Civil 3D MR1 release, the survey point label styles have been revised to stack and to visualize only specific labels. So in both cases, I think that was an improvement. We went to stack the labels, and then we didn't show anything that we didn't think was necessary upon the very first opening of the file. Default points and ground shots will only show the point position and elevation. Most point features will only show the point feature and comment description field. And chain points that use chain features, like a SmartWorks for instance, are set to elevation only or no display. Inside the description key set, you'll see something that looks like this in the description key editor right here. We'll have a point label style for every feature. And in this case, you see the top one for AC for asphalt crown. The elevation is the only thing that will show. An antenna, for instance, which is a feature which will go under the tower layer, will only show the description. So we felt there was no reason to show the point's name or the elevation for standard features. Survey point and label styles for design surveys will be found in the drainage, the topo RW for right-of-way, and the utilities and survey development model templates. So all those are specific to these 5 templates. Point styles control how the points will be visualized. The FDOT existing point feature has been set to an idealized size based on the relative size of the travel lanes. Once placed in a drawing file, they'll remain static in size and will not change with the drawing scale. For instance, a manhole, which we have set at approximately 5 feet across, doesn't mean that a manhole is 5 feet across. It's just an idealized size that's in relation to, say, 12 feet of pavement, where we do not want a manhole cover scaling up and beyond the size of the pavement itself. We always want to keep all these points relative to what a roadway would look like. So a few point styles like the baseline symbol and the centerline symbol will change size with the drawing scale for annotation scale purposes, but those are the only field feature points or feature codes coming out of CASE or coming out of EFB that you'll see that will annotate. So label styles control how the point object labels will be displayed. So FDOT has provided a number of label styles for the surveyor to use in developing deliverables. The label style that ends in 0.2 will stay static at 0.2 feet. The label style that ends in 0.5 will stay static at 0.5 feet. These label styles are unaffected by the drawing scale. They will not annotate. The label style associated with the point objects inserted in the drawing can be changed individually in the properties box or globally in the prospector under point groups. So before I go any further, let me give you a little example of what I'm talking about. I'm going to switch over to Survey Development Model 02 and show you all the points in this particular file have been added under point groups. So the utilities, the topo, all the monumentation, all the ground shots, the drainage, the bridge, everything has been added through a point group. How this is displayed on the screen is based on the hierarchy. The topo, for instance, let me see if I can hover on it and keep that up, is a group that will show only the points that are labeled under topo in the XML grouper. So if I zoom in here, let me zoom in close to a couple of points here. Here we've got a monument, we have a ground point, and a water meter. So if I have utilities sitting at the top and I don't want to see anything but utilities, I would want to move the no display, which is all the way to the bottom, just under utilities, because it's a hierarchical style of visualization. So if I right click on point groups and say properties, I can highlight the no display, move it to the top, and then drop it one just under utilities and say OK. Only the utilities will show in this case, unless the no display properties have been set to not show that. In this case, no display is showing, point label style is showing, and overrides have been checked. I can change around what I want to show or what I want to visualize by moving them up or below above or below the no display symbol. So let me move this utilities down. I'll move topo back to up to the top. So okay, hit set properties and go over to the overrides. I want to show the marker, I want to show the point style, so okay. What I want to show is that I can move these labels in this case just an elevation. If I want to change that to say just a description, I would do that here. If there is a description, it will. If I want to show everything and have it associated to 0.05, I would choose a label here. So okay. Again, it's off to the side. I can reset that label by saying reset, and you'll see the stacked version of this particular label. So in the tool space, in the prospector tab, and under point groups, the survey template have two preset point groups: no display, as I showed you, and all points. Civil 3D displays point groups based on the hierarchy or the order of the point groups. The top group has precedent over the lower groups. If no display is at the top, then all the groups lower in the list will not display. Sorry, a little ahead of myself there. Exception, description key settings take precedence over point groups hierarchy unless point label overrides are selected. So in the properties, moving no display all the way to the top, takes all the points off. And of course the figures are unaffected because the figures are shown differently through the survey database under, and let me open this for edit, under figure groups, or those survey point groups under figure groups right here. Okay, so in this case, when no display is at the top, no points will display. When points from the survey database are inserted into a drawing, they will show up in the prospector under point groups. To insert the points into a drawing from the survey database, right-click on the survey points or a survey point group. To insert the points into the all points group, you have to hover over the points and select the option Insert into Drawing. This will always insert the points into the all points group, even if it's done from a survey database point group. Conversely, to insert points into its own point group, you do not hover over the points. Instead, you click on the Insert into Drawing directly below the properties. I'm going to try to see if I can demonstrate this. I'm going to go over to this survey 03, and if you notice under the prospector, the only point groups are the all points and the no display, and there's no black marker beside it, so therefore there's nothing in these groups. If I go down to the survey database and I open the point groups, I can insert specific groups. If I go and I hover over points and say Insert into the Drawing, like I said at the very first example, it will insert all these drainage points into the drawing. However, if I look in the prospector, you won't see the point group. If I update, you're going to see there are points in the all points group, but there's no group showing. So if I go down back to the survey database and remove these from the drawing and type in regenerate, let's see, let me do this again, points, remove them from the drawing right here. Okay, and I go up to the prospector and look, nothing is in the point group, so those points have been removed and they are no longer in the all points. I can update, keep this no display updated. As I said, conversely, if I want the points in a group itself, I will actually insert them right here. Don't go down to points and say insert. That inserts them into all point groups. if I put them here, it inserts them in the drawing, and then if I go to Prospector, you'll see that the drainage points have now been inserted as their own point group. And of course, it's always good to update. You put in a few more points. I'll put in the drainage points, the topo points, and the utility points. If I look up in the Prospector, again, I'm going to update. You'll see utility points, the topo points, and the drainage points are all shown. If I want to show just one set or the other, as I said before, use the no display, move it up in the hierarchy to wherever you want it to be to show the points that you want to see. So utility points are the only ones shown or above no display, so those will be the only points shown. If I want these utility points, as I said before, to have a different label, I simply show the properties and choose the type of label. In this case, I'm going to say display all, and I'm not going to use a set size. I'll use the under description no display label style. I have a display all. I'll say OK, and I need to set the override in order to override the description keys. So in this case, I'll say point style override, say OK. Now these labels will be shown depending on the scale. If I change the annotation scale to something else, these label styles will change with the annotation scale. So that's pretty much how point groups and the hierarchy of points, visualizing points, are shown. Normally, I probably, for utilities, would not put the override on. I'd keep that point group off, and it'll show back the way it's set in the description keys. Once the points have been inserted into the active drawing, navigate to the tool space Prospector and view the point groups. You can right click to update, and this will affect any groups that did not get updated. And as I said, to reverse the insertion process, instead of choosing insert into drawing, choose remove from drawing. Change the display of points in a group can be done right clicking the point group and selecting properties. As another example of what I showed you just a minute ago. That brings us to figure groups. Figure groups are a little bit different. You go back to my drawing. Figure groups do not show up in a point group like points do. So if you go to the survey database and go to figure groups and insert the drainage chains, for instance, I'll say insert in the drawing. I'll insert the topo chains and the utility chains. And go up to the Prospector. We do have, under survey, we have figures. However, it's the individual chains that are shown. These chains can be edited. They can be chosen on the screen. For instance, I can choose this survey slope chain right here, SPLA1, or I probably could choose it right down here and edit it from here. I've got properties I can talk about, there's things I can do, but the easiest thing to do is just to jump on it. Right here in the view, right click on it, select it, then right click on it, say edit survey figure properties. Once you've pulled up the figure properties dialog box, there's things you can do with it. They are located in the middle right here. The top box tells you some facts about the chain, but if you want to edit it, You can highlight any particular point in the chain, and if you notice as it goes here towards the end, it highlights, it puts a little circle around it. If I want to trim this chain off, for instance, at this point, I would choose one of the tools, and here's the trim chain. It will actually knock off the end of that chain. If I say OK, this is actually saved into the survey database. So this is very important because the database will record all your chains and all your points. They can all be inserted into any drawing template at any time at a later time. Within this survey development model, we also have some layer states. So if I pull up the layer manager and go to right here, this is layer states, and open up, I can actually show just the drainage, just the topo, or just the utilities. So if I just double click or hit restore, what's going to happen is it's going to just show just the drainage points at this point. I could save this as a drainage file and it would be compliant. Or I could use the layer states to show other disciplines like the topo. So only the topo will show. Again, with layer states, I can show just the utilities. In this case, only the utilities will show. So Civil 3D figure groups work similarly to point groups in that they can be inserted into the drawing from the survey database in the Tool Space Survey tab. But once inserted in the drawing, the figures are listed in the prospector under Survey Figures. They are not segregated into groups like points. Note that it is critical that the appropriate template be used for the figures inserted into a drawing. The topo file will have layers for topo. The drainage file will have layers for drainage. The utility file will have layers for utility, but they will not be found in the other files or the other templates. Only the survey template has all the survey layers for a single file delivery. Again, showing how to insert a figure group into the drawing. So that brings us to FDOT's Civil 3D deliverables. The deliverables can be created from the point and figure groups created with the Land XML grouper. You use the create file utility to create and open an appropriate file. The topo file, utility file, drainage file, the GDTMRD, which is your surface file, and your alignment file. And then also the control survey file, the CTLSRD, or your project network control file is another deliverable. That'll be covered under a separate webinar. So that brings us to create the topo file, the utility file, and the drainage file. In this case, I would go to the FDOT tab. I would create a new file. I want to create a topo file. I'll say create the file right here, and then I'll open the file. Under the topo, I can go to the figure groups and insert the topo chains into the drawing. I can go to the survey point groups, go to topo RD points, and insert them into the drawing. I'll say file save. One more thing, I probably should set the projection. In this case, it's set Florida North. You usually would do that before you inserted the points, but in this case it won't matter. So now I have a complete topo file. I can change the annotation on it if I need to. However, it is ready to go. Other than details that you might select with labeling, if I hit the quick check, it is 100% compliant. Creating the utilities file is the same process. We'll create that file. I'll go ahead and create the drainage file. Insert the drainage chains. Insert the drainage points. Save. And again, I have a compliant drainage file. I'll open the utility file that I just created a moment ago. Set the Florida north. Okay. Save file. And now I'm ready to insert my utility points and my utility chains. I have a compliant drawing. One of the questions we got last week was, do you use 2D templates? All our templates are 3D. In this case, if I was to select everything and do the object viewer, just to show you, these are 3D files. Let me go back to create files, and I'm going to create a digital terrain model. Create it. It's a GDTMRD02. Open the file. In this case, if you look at the Home tab and right here at the layer properties, you're going to see that there's a limited amount of layers in this file. It's not, this template has not been created for the purpose of developing your surface. The surface should be developed in the SURVRD file, the survey development model, saved out as an XML and then imported into the GDTMRD, this file, as an XML file. So if I go to the Insert tab and go to Land XML, you'll see I have, like here is an existing ground. I'll open it, say OK, and now my existing ground is in this file. If I want to look at it with the object viewer, I can see that the file is in place. I want to hit save. Again, under FDOT, if I check compliancy, I'm at 100% compliancy. Notice that the styles came with the file, the colors, the layers, everything came with the XML import. I have one other file to create. I want to create an alignment file. And this particular file is not found under the survey design files. It's actually a roadway design file. So if I go to roadway design files, alignment layout is at the very top. Say create file, open it. In this case, we'll go to model space, set my projection, say yes, and then go to the insert tab and insert the land XML. And in this case, it will be the baseline 1 XML alignment. If I say OK, you'll note that the style comes in. It actually has the current style brought with it. The alignment is in the file. If I look in the prospector under alignments, I will see that it is baseline 1. And if I want to look at the properties, it'll tell me what kind of alignment was style or object style was chosen for it. One more thing to do is to check compliancy, and this file is 100% compliant. If I go and look at my list of files in my project directory, I'm going to see that I have drainage files now in there. I have the surface file, the GDTMRD file, the utility file, and the topo files. I also, if I move up to the roadway file right here, I'll see roadway deliverables. Okay, so here is the alignment file that's found under the roadway folder that I just created. There's one other file I could create. If I say create files, and this time go to right of way, look under right of way mapping, file containing topography for mapping purposes only. If I say create that file and open it, what you'll see when you bring in points from a point group, for instance, let me pull in, say, monumentation, insert into drawing, and topo RW points, I'll insert those into the drawing also, and say some topo RW chains. What you're going to see is that the points look a little bit different. The blocks that are used are solid as opposed to dashed, and monuments will annotate. So if I change it to 50 scale or 40 scale or 100 scale, you'll see monumentation will annotate. It also has the proper symbology for right-of-way monumentation. Of course, if I hit a quick check, I'm going to get 100% compliancy. And that pretty much concludes my webinar for today.